How does an EEG diagnose generalized epilepsy? Imagine trying to catch a pattern in a sea of electrical signals in the brain. An electroencephalogram, or EEG, is the tool used to do just that when diagnosing generalized epilepsy. It works by recording the brain's electrical activity through small electrodes placed on the scalp. These electrodes pick up the electrical signals generated by nerve cells firing in the brain. When someone has generalized epilepsy, the EEG often shows specific patterns that are different from normal brain activity. The most important feature seen in generalized epilepsy, especially genetic types, is called bilateral, synchronous, symmetrical spike wave discharges. These are sharp spikes followed by slow waves that happen at the same time across both sides of the brain. They look like rhythmic, repeating patterns of electrical activity that involve both hemispheres simultaneously. These patterns are a hallmark of generalized seizures, which affect large parts of the brain at once. Generalized epilepsy involves widespread, synchronized activity across large brain networks, especially in circuits called thalamocortical pathways. This synchronized activity produces the spike wave patterns seen on the EEG. Sometimes, the EEG also shows other abnormal patterns like polyspikes, which are clusters of spikes, or specific rhythms such as occipital intermittent rhythmic delta activity, especially during sleep. The exact patterns can vary depending on the type of epilepsy and whether the person is awake or asleep during the recording. To improve the chances of catching these patterns, doctors often use activation techniques during the EEG. These include asking the person to hyperventilate, which can provoke abnormal discharges, or exposing them to flashing lights through photic stimulation. Sleep deprivation is also used because sleep can make epileptiform activity more apparent. Sometimes, specific visual patterns or cognitive tasks are used to trigger abnormal activity in susceptible individuals. The EEG is usually performed with electrodes on the scalp, which is a non-invasive way to record brain activity. In some cases, a video EEG is done, where the person's seizures are recorded on video while the EEG is monitored. This helps doctors see what happens during actual seizures and confirms the diagnosis. More advanced techniques like high-density EEG, which uses more electrodes placed closer together, can provide a more detailed picture of where the abnormal activity originates. In summary, an EEG diagnoses generalized epilepsy by detecting characteristic patterns like bilateral, synchronized spike wave discharges that reflected hypersynchronous activity across the brain. These patterns distinguish generalized epilepsy from other types, such as focal epilepsy, which show abnormal activity in specific areas. However, it's important to remember that EEG results are only part of the diagnosis. They need to be interpreted alongside the person's medical history and clinical examination. Sometimes, EEGs may appear normal between seizures, so repeated or longer recordings might be necessary. Always consult a healthcare professional for a comprehensive assessment and personalized diagnosis.